When they arrested us, they picked our phones and threw them at the dashboard. But this time, they gave us back our phones na wakatuambia tuanze kutafuta pesa.
Pesa ya dollars wale wa Afrika wawili wakawagonga na ile wala Somali. Wakawagota ile pesa yote wale wa Afrika wawili wakajaza kwa mfuko zao wakateremka.
If this happens, then at that point they are not acting in their capacity as police officers, but as criminals.
Officers getting guns, being involved in a robbery, we got a wrong person on board.
I think the best service we can give to this nation is try to find out what is driving this kind of behavior.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. And I guess I want to give you an opportunity to reflect on what has been happening in court, especially yesterday. I just want to pick your mind listening to that witness testimony, because today we will be discussing basically about the profession, about the service itself, and the issues that have bedeviled the service in the last week. They've done a good job, but that doesn't mean they've not erred in several ways. So I want your reflections, especially on the lady and gentlemen who are civilians. So let me begin with the only lady.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I think it is important for Kenyans to know that there should be a distinction between people carrying out activities in their official capacity and as individuals. And Kenya being a democratic state, we have the rule of law that ensures that anyone who goes against the law is held accountable for their actions. And so when these people commit crimes, then they should be held liable for those activities as individuals and not to be seen as officials working in an official capacity. When
they use official guns, official arm of the state, how do you draw the line?
That is them engaging in criminal activities, and there is a proper mechanism through which they should be held accountable for that.
Okay.
Just like you might have a doctor committing, medical malpractice, or a preacher preaching but using his influence to gain political or personal goals. So it doesn't have, we shouldn't associate these activities with the entire population, with the entire police force.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Police service.
Police service. You'll help us draw the line. David.
I'm a practicing Christian. And as a practicing Christian, I draw great example from that of Jesus' disciples, that out of 12 there was always Judas. However great the force of service may attempt to be, Judas will always be there. This erratic, not very useful, I don't want to say useless, not very useful human who will go against the law, go against the grain, who will bludgeon attempts at correcting the image of any venture. You will find them in church, in the ngangas of the world. You will find them in banking sector. You will find them in the hotelier sector. I, however, recognize that the calling for police officers as state officers and by duty is a higher calling. The trust has been bestowed on them, and in them, they are seen as the hope and security of our nation. Maybe as we go on, Charles and Charlton will tell us whether they have endeavored to impart in the young and upcoming officers or in the officers during training the essence of patriotism. That when they leave school in Kiganjo, they have a duty to nation. Okay. They have a duty to every single person who is an inhabitant of this country. So that as they leave, it's not about what my salary is at the end of the month. Of course, there are other factors we will talk about in this show as regards that. But I think fundamentally, we need to first agree that out of every 12, there will always be a Judas who will be rogue.
Okay.
But also, the police need to agree with me as much that their calling is higher.
Is higher. Yeah. All right, I'm confused how to salute the two gentlemen because of protocol issues. But let me begin with Owino. The same thing, you watched, and these are people you deal with every single day. She says we should draw the line between the profession and individuals acting while on duty and acting out of duty.
First of all, as a policeman, I'm not just a policeman, I'm a Kenyan citizen. This is a job I chose to do. I'm a parent, and maybe soon I'll be a grandfather. So I have a responsibility to ensure that the relationship between the public and the police is good. And the most important thing is to ensure that every time we are discussing our country, because now we are not just discussing police, we are discussing the security of our country, our beautiful country that we should secure. We should make these discussions without any bias in any way. And the bias is that we must make sure that we protect the image. You know, when you talk about a policeman, you're not talking about me, you're talking about your police. You're talking about your security. Yes. And therefore, we must be very honest. And I tend to agree with both of them that, yes, police work is a high calling, and I'll explain why it's a high calling. And at the same time, it is also important to understand that there's a difference between an individual committing crime and a police officer who is undertaking his duty. Like, for example, you have to look at our population. We are 100,000 plus. And you must also understand, I've always said this, the policemen don't come from the moon. You're not born a policeman. You're just born a child and you grow, and people take various professions. And in the process, you will always expect to have persons who deviate from the actual norms for one reason or another. But as senior officers in the system, we also have a responsibility to look at what is happening and come up with solutions to ensure that these things don't continue in the manner. And that is why the prefect for the police is here.
Internal affairs.
Yes, he is the prefect. He is the police of the policemen.
Okay.
Yeah, to ensure that on serious issues
the ombudsman of the police.
Yeah, serious issues of discipline. And he will tell you that we have now the Civilian Oversight Authority, IPOA. It was not placed on us. It is us in 2004 when we were doing our strategic plan for 2004-2008.
They requested for
under the leadership of Major General Ali, who was our Commissioner of Police then. We wanted to have one police service. We didn't want to have AP and KP. We wanted to have Kenya National.
So this merger is something that was muted.
Yes, we just wanted to have Kenya National Police. If you read our 2004-2008 strategic plan, you'll realize we wanted to have one police service.
Okay.
Actually, he was director of personnel for a very long time.
Okay.
Instead of recruitment, training, promotions, discipline. Yes, I think he has sacked very many people on his signature. So, but not willingly. Not willingly. So we said, we used to have the complaint mechanism, which he manages as internal affairs. But we wanted to have a civilian oversight.
Okay.
So that when we carry out any investigation, I've just seen in a report this evening on 411 that a police officer who had killed someone, allegedly killed someone, whom we went through an inquiry into the cause of death, which I've always said here, and people tend to attack us, that when a person dies in a circumstance that is not very clear, we may not directly accuse a police officer or any other person for killing him. We open an inquiry into the cause of death called an inquest, and everybody takes their evidence there.
Okay.
And I think today it was decided by a magistrate that that officer needed to be charged for the offense of murder.
All right.
And these are checks and balances that ensures, because for your information, policemen have a lot of powers. We have power to stop, search, and detain. And this power is not on Inspector General or his assistants like Mr. Muredi and I, but the constable is the man.
I'm coming back to specific discussions, but I'd like to hear the man of the internal affairs. You get so many complaints, you get to deal with a lot of issues, but when you sit in your office and you're watching live TV, for example, and your officers, and I'll talk about the training, because when a police officer like the two of you turn out to be the good cops, how do we have the bad cops who underwent the same training that you know? Where did we go wrong with their training? So I'd like to talk about that. But when you're sitting in your office and you're watching, and you see a police officer who you believed in, what goes through your mind?
Thank you, Ken. Firstly, let me thank you for this invite and say that internal affairs appears or is actually the new kid on the block in terms of police formations, and therefore it is a creation of the 2011 National Police Service Act, born out of Wanjiko's will to have the police internally checkmated. against or as opposed to IPOA, which is a civilian oversight created under the IPOA Act number 35 of 2011, where they're supposed to oversight the police but externally. So they are the eyes of the civilians over the police, but internally we oversight so that we deal with what you'd call home affairs. Back to your question, what do I feel when I see rogue or bad police officers, the bad apples, behaving badly? And certainly it is not a good thing. Just like a parent would feel nasty when their kid is not doing well.
Okay.
Because you know that officer has been taken through a rigorous training. The curriculum has lately been revised, and they have had the best of the training anywhere in the world. The National Police Service vision is to be a world-class police service. That is the aspiration.
Okay.
And that is what is envisaged when every trainer takes a trainee through the process. However, along the way, we have the bad eggs, okay, that come and ruin everything, the good that has happened. And we must appreciate the police have honestly done a fairly good job to keep this country secure and safe, notwithstanding there's bad elements that will deal with them like any other organization.
Okay.
Because the checks and balances, there's the code of conduct that we use
Okay.
to deal with these bad boys and girls.